Picture this: a small town where everyone knows everyone, where trust is as natural as breathing. But what happens when that trust is shattered? When the person you pass on the street, wave to at the grocery store, or even call friend turns out to be hiding something so dark it defies imagination? Today, we're traveling to Delphi, Indiana, where two young girls, Abby Williams and Liberty German, went for a walk on a crisp February afternoon in 2017. They never came home. What followed was a mystery that would tear at the very fabric of this close-knit community and reveal that sometimes the monsters we fear aren't strangers at all. For those of you who want to dive deeper into this haunting case, visit therealcrimediary.com, where you'll find photos, timeline details, and exclusive insights that will help you understand just how this tragedy unfolded. Let's begin by turning back the clock to that seemingly ordinary Monday when everything changed. February 13th, 2017 started like any other winter day in Delphi, Indiana. 13-year-old Abigail Williams and 14-year-old Liberty German were looking forward to their day off school. The best friends had planned a visit to the historic Monon High Bridge Trail, a popular spot among locals for its scenic views and peaceful atmosphere. At 1:35 p.m., Liberty's older sister dropped the girls off near the trail entrance. The weather was unusually mild for February, perfect for an afternoon adventure. Wearing light jackets and carrying their phones, Abby and Libby set out along the trail, taking pictures and doing what teenage best friends do, sharing secrets, laughing, and documenting their adventure on social media. The Monon High Bridge itself is an abandoned railroad trestle, stretching 65 feet above Deer Creek. At 2:07 p.m., Libby posted a photo on Snapchat showing Abby walking along the bridge. This would be the last time anyone would see the girls alive. They were supposed to meet Liberty's father for a ride home at 3:15 p.m., but they never showed up at the pickup location. The girls' final footsteps led them across that old railroad bridge, a path they'd walked before, in a town they knew well. They had no way of knowing that this familiar trail would lead them into the hands of evil, turning their innocent afternoon adventure into the beginning of a nightmare that would haunt Delphi forever. Delphi, Indiana is one of those small American towns where everyone knows everyone else's business. The kind of place where you can't make a trip to the grocery store without running into three people you know. With just under 3,000 residents, it's a community where children still ride their bikes freely through the neighborhoods and families leave their doors unlocked without a second thought. When Abby and Libby failed to show up at their designated pickup point, worry spread through the town like wildfire. Text messages and phone calls bounced between concerned parents and neighbors. Within hours, what started as a handful of family members searching the trails transformed into hundreds of volunteers combing every inch of the surrounding area. Local law enforcement, volunteer firefighters, and community members worked through the night, their flashlights cutting through the darkness as they called out the girls' names. The temperature dropped, but nobody wanted to stop searching. Parents held their own children closer that night, while continuing to hope for the best, but quietly fearing the worst. The Carroll County Community Center quickly became a command post, with local restaurants and businesses sending food and supplies to support the search efforts. People from neighboring towns drove in to help, proving that in times of crisis, small-town America still bands together like family. But as the hours ticked by without any sign of the girls, the atmosphere in Delphi began to shift. The usual warmth of small-town life gave way to an unfamiliar tension. Parents who normally let their children walk to school started driving them instead. Doors that had never known locks were suddenly bolted shut. The comfortable predictability of small-town life had been shattered, and a new reality was setting in. One that would forever change how this close-knit community viewed itself and its safety. What initially seemed like a missing persons case took a dramatic turn when investigators discovered that Liberty German had captured crucial evidence on her cell phone. In those final moments on the Monon High Bridge, Libby had the presence of mind to record video of a man approaching them. The grainy footage showed someone wearing blue jeans, a blue jacket, and a hoodie, walking with an unusual gait across the bridge. Even more chilling was the audio Libby managed to record. 3 words that would haunt the investigation for years to come. Guys, down the hill. The man's voice was distinct, commanding, leaving investigators to believe he had approached the girls with authority, perhaps trying to appear as someone official. The police released both the photo and audio to the public, hoping someone would recognize the mysterious figure that became known as Bridge Guy. Thousands of tips poured in as the image circulated through national media. Communities across Indiana and beyond scrutinized every male acquaintance who bore even a slight resemblance to the grainy photograph. The investigation expanded rapidly. FBI agents joined local law enforcement, setting up command posts and conducting extensive interviews. They examined security footage from nearby businesses, traced cell phone signals, and meticulously mapped every person known to be in the area that day. As weeks turned into months, investigators pursued countless leads. They looked into registered sex offenders in the region, investigated similar cases in other states, and followed up on every tip, no matter how small. Meanwhile, Bridge Guy became a phantom haunting the collective consciousness of Delphi. Residents found themselves studying strangers more carefully, wondering if the perpetrator was still walking among them. The case drew attention from true crime enthusiasts worldwide, who pored over every detail, creating timelines, analyzing the audio, and developing theories. But despite the collective efforts of law enforcement and the public, the identity of the man on the bridge remained elusive, leaving the community to wonder if justice would ever be served. After more than 5 years of agonizing uncertainty, everything changed in October 2022. The shocking announcement came that investigators had arrested Richard Allen, a 50-year-old CVS pharmacy technician from Delphi. The arrest sent shockwaves through the community. This wasn't a drifter or an unknown predator, but someone who had lived and worked among them the entire time. Allen was a familiar face in town, someone who had served countless residents at the local pharmacy. He had even processed photos for Libby German's family. The revelation that this ordinary-seeming man might be responsible for such a heinous crime left the community reeling. Here was someone who had continued his daily life in Delphi, interacting with residents, while potentially harboring this devastating secret. The evidence that led to Allen's arrest proved equally disturbing. An unspent .40 caliber round discovered between the girls' bodies was linked to Allen's Sig Sauer P226. The ballistics match provided investigators with a crucial physical connection to the crime scene. Additionally, Allen's cell phone records placed him in the area of the Monon High Bridge on that fateful day. What made the breakthrough even more chilling was the revelation that Allen had been interviewed by police in 2017, early in the investigation. For years, he had lived just minutes from the crime scene, raising a family and maintaining a seemingly normal life while the community lived in fear. In the aftermath of his arrest, surveillance footage emerged showing Allen at work in CVS, calmly going about his duties like any other resident. The stark contrast between this mundane image and the accusations against him highlighted the devastating truth that sometimes the most dangerous predators hide in plain sight behind the most ordinary facades. The arrest brought a mix of relief and betrayal to Delphi. Parents who had brought their children to the pharmacy where he worked struggled to reconcile the friendly face behind the counter with the monster described in the probable cause affidavit. The truth had been there all along, hidden behind a veneer of small-town normalcy. The revelation of Richard Allen's arrest didn't just solve a crime. It fundamentally altered the fabric of Delphi's community. Parents who once let their children roam freely began looking over their shoulders, wondering who else might be hiding dark secrets behind friendly smiles. The trust that had been the foundation of this close-knit town was shaken to its core. For the families of Abby and Liberty, the arrest brought a complicated mixture of emotions. While there was relief in finally having answers, the knowledge that their daughter's alleged killer had been so close, living and working among them, reopened wounds that had never fully healed. They had passed him in the grocery store, exchanged pleasantries, while he potentially carried this horrific secret. The ripple effects spread through every corner of Delphi. Neighbors began to question neighbors. Long-held assumptions about safety and community trust were challenged. The local CVS, once just another small-town business, became a painful reminder of how well evil can disguise itself in ordinary places. Teachers at Delphi Community Middle School, where Abby and Libby had been students, struggled to help children process this new chapter of the tragedy. The arrest raised difficult questions about trust, safety, and the complex reality that dangerous people don't always look dangerous. Local businesses noticed a shift in customer behavior. People became more guarded, more suspicious. The casual, friendly atmosphere that had characterized Delphi for generations was replaced by something more cautious, more reserved. Even simple interactions carried the weight of newfound awareness that appearances can be deceiving. Yet amid this darkness, the community's resilience showed through. Support groups formed, neighbors reached out to neighbors, and the town began the difficult process of healing. Not just from the original tragedy, but from the betrayal that had lived among them for so long. As we reflect on the haunting story of Delphi, we're left with unsettling questions. How well do we really know the people around us? Can a community ever fully recover from such a profound breach of trust? These are the questions that keep us searching for answers, that make us look twice at the familiar faces in our daily lives. The story of Abby and Liberty reminds us that sometimes the most important evidence can come from the most unexpected sources. Their bravery in those final moments helped write the final chapter of their own story. For an in-depth look at this case, including exclusive photos, timeline analysis, and expert insights, visit therealcrimediary.com. Next week, we'll explore another case that challenges our understanding of trust and betrayal. The story of a respected family doctor whose patients began disappearing one by one. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember to visit therealcrimediary.com for more true crime stories that make us question everything we think we know. Hey listeners, welcome back to The Real Crime Diary. I'm your host, Sean Dupree. If you tuned in last time, we had a deep dive into the disturbing history of power abuse across different eras, looking at the connection between dominance, control, and how it plays out even today. We touched on scandals from the past and compared them with some modern-day examples, showing how these patterns of abuse, unfortunately, persist. One of the most insightful tools we've explored to understand this is my book, Power, Pleasure, and Pain, a study of abuse through time. It's not just a historical account, but an interdisciplinary approach to understanding why this keeps happening. We draw from history, philosophy, and modern case studies to explain how figures like Dominique Pellico, Harvey Weinstein, and others have exploited their positions of power for their own gain, often protected by the very systems meant to stop them. Recap of last interaction. In our last live stream, we discussed how libertinism, philosophically introduced by figures like Marquis de Sade, has shaped the way power and pleasure have been entangled throughout history. This concept ties directly into how figures like Weinstein operated, as we saw parallels between de Sade's fictional characters and the way powerful men manipulated their victims in real life. You guys had some amazing comments, asking how societal structures have allowed these behaviors to go unchecked for so long. It's a crucial question, and one that the book addresses deeply. Why this book is valuable. Now, what's powerful about Power, Pleasure, and Pain is its ability to break down these historical patterns and link them to the present. You're not just reading about ancient Rome or Enlightenment philosophy, you're seeing how these ideologies are alive today. The book uncovers how sexual violence and control have been systematically woven into the fabric of societies from ancient times right up to the modern era. It's about understanding not just the individual predators, but the systems that protect them, whether it's in royal courts, religious institutions, or today's corporate and entertainment worlds. Through these historical lenses, we also explore movements like #MeToo that are beginning to dismantle these structures. The fight for justice is far from over, but as the book demonstrates, we are in the midst of a cultural shift where legal reforms are finally addressing these long-standing issues. It's more than a history lesson. It's a guide to understanding and supporting change today. What's next? If you want to dive deeper, I suggest picking up Power, Pleasure, and Pain, a study of abuse through time. It's available now, and trust me, it will change the way you think about power, pleasure, and control. We've even got some exclusive content coming up on the channel where we'll be exploring the book's case studies in even more detail, so stay tuned for that. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to The Real Crime Diary so you don't miss any updates. Let's keep this conversation going, because understanding the past is key to changing the future.